Know yourself, for it is you who you've been waiting for. So welcome to this episode where we're going to unpack what does that mean? And if this is really the first time that you've been exposed to, heard this concept, invitation is explore this episode with an open and curious mind. We are now at and entering into the time of evolution where we are entering into our sovereignty. We are claiming, I should say, our sovereignty. And what does that mean exactly? It means that we are connecting to our inner divine essence, our inner divine presence. And this is really, really important at this point in history that we're at in our evolutionary times, because previously we've always had this spirit self, soul self, divine presence spark within us. It's just previously we weren't at a place in our evolutionary maturity where we could actually be responsible for what that means. And what that actually means is that we have the ability and power to create our experiences and our realities. That is us being in our conscious creatorship. We are now entering into a period where we're starting to really activate that, know that, and connect to that. So we've always been creating. We've just predominantly been creating from the subconscious. And so we've been creating from, just programming, conditioning, imprinting, etc., where we weren't aware of it. Now, as we awaken, what awaken means is that we're starting to be aware. That's what we mean by consciousness. It's we have more awareness. And again, consciousness doesn't mean that all of a sudden we're going to be in a higher frequency of love or higher frequency of responsibility or compassion or care. It means that we have more awareness to choose. And that is us being in our conscious creatorship. So why is that important in context of us knowing ourselves and in context that we are who we are waiting for or have been waiting for? Because previously we had guides, masters, saviors, avatars that came and actually cleared the path for us. For what we are now entering into, that path has been cleared previously from them. And so what that means is that we now are entering into a time and era where we are connecting to our own conscious creatorship through individually knowing ourselves and activating our own unique essence of that divine spark. Each of us has our own divine soul map, our own divine blueprint, and each one with that activation, with the understanding of what that is, that's how we contribute, serve, and offer our own unique essence and presence and gifts, abilities, and contributions that are unique to each of us. And together, when we start to really activate and awaken to that, that's how we then start to contribute our own personal essence. And that's what then creates this whole beautiful creation. But in order to create a whole conscious creation, each of us need to come in, or invitation is to come in and study ourselves, know ourselves, so that we can start to connect to that, first of all, spirit self within us. This isn't the ego self. This isn't about just the personality. This is connecting to our soul presence, our soul self. Our soul self, divine presence, is always connected to higher source, highest creation, universe, quantum field, like whatever term you're comfortable using. So therefore, we are still absolutely connected. We are an island unto ourselves. And this concept is not an egoic consciousness or concept. This is a concept that we are truly connecting and merging to our soul self, our spirit self. And from there, we are then going to express our soul map. Knowing ourselves is so important because we each do have a different contribution to offer. So one of our most highest paths, purpose, including the path that's going to really bring us to our highest fulfillment, is to actually know who we are, know ourselves individually, because we each, again, what resonates for each of us individually could be very different for somebody else. Now, as we activate this conscious creatorship, this is us stepping into our sovereignty, which means I'm going to be responding to my own personal resonance. And there is a process of learning how to discern between, is this my soul's resonance? Is this my soul's guidance and wishes? Or is this my personalities? Or is this, is this fear or is this non-resonant? So there's a little bit of a process for sure for us getting into that clarity and that refinement of that inner knowing or inner resonance of what is what. And as we do that, we start to actually merge our personality with the soul, and that starts to activate again more of this higher guidance, our higher guidance. So we're still connected, and we're still, how can I word this? We're still connected to higher source, yet it is flowing through our own unique individual consciousness. As we explore our own unique individual consciousness, we then activate or are offered a more clear, conscious, aware choice of what we want to do with that information that we have within ourselves, and what we want to, how we want to offer, if we do, to the collective, to the world, to our families, to our communities. How do we want to navigate through the world with that information? So as we start to know ourselves, we start to understand more of really, why are we here? What is our soul map? What is our personal soul map? Why am I here? What is my purpose? What are my gifts and abilities? What are my challenges, and why are these challenges? Why am I experiencing some things that other people aren't experiencing? Why do certain things really inspire me and really resonate with me and other things don't? So this is an example of us starting to step into our own sovereignty as well, because we start to know ourselves. Then we can start to really activate that creatorship by choosing things that fulfill us. If we're operating from that soul perspective, then we're going to be offering what we contribute for the highest good of all. So when we're really truly connected to our divine source within our soul self, and we know ourselves, then we care and have compassion for all beings. We care and have compassion for the betterment of all, including the environment, the world, all cultures, all beings. We care about life. We have a reverence for life. We have a sacredness and a remembrance that we are all here and ultimately connected as one. So that might sound like really kind of abstract. That might sound kind of far reaching at where we're at and what we're experiencing on the planet. But this is where we're actually heading into in our new consciousness, because we're entering into the era where we are claiming our sovereignty. That means somebody else can't do it for us. If somebody else did it for us, that means that we wouldn't be in our empowerment. We wouldn't be free, and we wouldn't be in our sovereignty to actually choose and create the world that we want. This is how we truly are going to create the world that we want to see. We each individually are going to contribute in our own way, but doing it from a place where we truly know ourselves, our soul self, means that we will come at it in our own unique individual way. Truly the picture is so vast and so big. The choreography of this is so massive that it's potentially really difficult for us to see the complexity and the vastness of it. And the reality is we don't have to see that, because each of us have our own inner soul map. And that means that all we need to truly do is really get to know ourselves, know what our offering is, what our resonance is. And when we come from that place, we will be offering our own place in that greater whole. So I like to use the analogy of a painting. So imagine we're creating this big painting, and the analogy of the big painting is we're creating this new world, this new earth. And in this new earth, maybe we want more compassion, we want equality, we want justice, we want balance, we want just care, we want, everybody to have something to eat, we want everybody to have compassion and love and ability to be able to, be in their own space and their own process, figuring things out with kindness. I mean, it could be whatever, resonates with us individually. So as we're starting to get more clear on the world that we want, coming back to ourselves in this analogy of the painting, it'd be like we each have our own paintbrush, and our own paintbrush is a different size. Potentially we have a different color on the paintbrush. It's not right or wrong, better or worse. It's not comparing. It's not about comparing. It's about, this is what I came in at this current time in this beautiful, unique personality and body to offer, to potentially contribute and create the new world and the new earth. And we do that first and foremost, we have to know ourselves. And in knowing ourselves, there's a lot of potential transformation of processing, healing, and emotions that have to happen as well and that come up too. So as we start to know ourselves, we start to get into that ability to be able to navigate through, like, I want to have more compassion. So looking within and asking, where am I not having compassion? Where am I maybe judging? Where am I maybe feeling anger or disdain for something or somebody else? So first, we may need to move that energy in order for us to get more into alignment of compassion or clarity, so that we can start to see what is it that we actually really do want to see for ourselves, for our families, for our community, and for Mama Earth, and for the world as a whole, for humanity as a whole, for all beings. So again, we're invited to come back into starting with our own self first. And that's the microcosm, macrocosm effect. So moving forward in the new consciousness, we are the ones that are going to be creating it. And we create it through, first and foremost, our own transformation. And we create it through, again, our alignment to whatever we're vibrating from. So we have to know ourselves in order to start to really be aware and to be able to choose what we're in alignment with. The universe, it's like there's a signal. I'm sure many are familiar with the law of attraction. So the signal, and this is like a universal law, the signal is neutral. It responds to our vibration. And it's neutral because if it wasn't, we wouldn't be in the realm of free will. We wouldn't be in the realm of having our sovereignty. So if something else was deciding it for us, we are not in our sovereignty. So that's why we are the ones that are going to be creating, and therefore we are the ones we've been waiting for. We have the power within us truly to create the world that we want to see. So in order to do that, we truly have to go within and know ourselves. And then we can start to get clear on what we do want. We can start to move the energies or process and heal, release, let go of old beliefs, old conditioning, etc., that is no longer serving, that is no longer appropriate for where we're at or for what we want to create. And then we can get into and start to practice and cultivating, getting into the alignment of what we want to see on the planet. So before, we would go outward. We would look outward and we would say, I want to feel happy. So when this happens, then I will feel happy. Well, in this new consciousness, for us being a conscious creator, it's not going to work that way now. It's going to be, if I want to feel something, if I want to feel peace, if I want to feel happy, if I want to see peace on the outer in the world, I first and foremost have to cultivate peace within myself. If I want to be happy, I can't wait for something outside of me to change or happen in order for me to be happy, because that would be the outside creating my inside. And that's not our new consciousness. That's not us in our sovereignty. In our sovereignty means I want to feel more happy. So what can I do through my day to cultivate happiness? How can I get into alignment? And what I mean by alignment, just to be clear, is how can I start to feel happy so that I can then start to change my signal so that I'm starting to now draw in, attract, manifest, and magnetize, most importantly, that energy, those opportunities, those people, those experiences that are starting to show me or reinforce that I've been in alignment with happiness. So this is a very different concept and, kind of to change around. So the invitation is, we want to just really start by going within and asking, really, like, why am I here? Like, what is my purpose here? And I don't mean that in an analytical way. I don't mean that in a way of really feeling defeated because we don't know. This is just, it's a beautiful path of self-discovery. What am I really, what does my energy field feel like compared to other people's? And what I mean by that is, do you know when you're out of your energy field? Do you know when you're being really influenced or impacted by another person's energy field? Am I interfering? Am I being interfered with? How do I know where my center is? How do I know what really makes me feel calm and makes me feel peaceful? So there's many ways for self-discovery. There's many beautiful, techniques or spiritual disciplines or technologies of consciousness. So for example, numerology is an amazing, beautiful beautiful path of understanding ourselves. It guides us into our soul map. And if you're interested, there is a course called Aquarian Numerology Foundations at catherinemarshall.com. So you can check that out if you're interested. That's one path. There's paths of astrology, studying your astrological chart. That's the other half of numerology. They work very compatibly and very beautifully together. You can study yourself by journaling. You can study yourself by asking, show me, please help me to remember who I am, and setting an intention through the day. I want to experience more peace. I want to experience more joy, or I want to experience more laughter today. So exploring my day and noticing, okay, so what supported that intention and what didn't. We can also go through our day or go through different self-discovery pathways by also just sitting silently and meditating and just starting to kind of get quiet and starting to ask, how am I really feeling today? How do I feel in my body? How are my emotions feeling? We want to start to really be able to get calm in our emotions enough that we can start to tap into our soul's guidance. Our soul is really subtle and our soul will not force. So there's a couple ways that we're learning how to really know ourselves. One is by really getting calm within ourselves. So what can we do to cultivate through our day and create in our environment, spending some time alone, spending some time in nature, or spending some time in places. And if you have a really busy life and you feel like that's not possible right now, it could be just literally taking a minute, go into the washroom and just put the seat down and sit in for a second and just start to connect to your breath. How am I feeling right now? How do I want to feel? And not necessarily worrying about, I'm not feeling like this. It's just starting to become aware of the self and aware of like disrupting that autopilot and starting to become aware of what is really important to me. What are my values? And am I living my values? So number one, clear on our values, clear on our non-negotiables, and then starting to ask, am I leading my life like that? Do I need to take more leadership of my day, of my emotions, of my mind? How am I perceiving things? What are my thoughts about? We want to do this so gently too and so lovingly. This is such a beautiful quest. The self-discovery is an invitation for us is just to really approach it that way. Approach it with just this beautiful, quest, and what will we discover about ourselves? And as we start to do that, that is when we are able to start to, again, really tap into, what am I here to contribute? But it brings this ignition of self-worth, and it brings this ignition of passion and inspiration to be yourself and to express yourself. And that doesn't mean you have to necessarily be doing anything out in the world. Remember, our most important, powerful element of us being our sovereignty is that we are now in a presence. So back to the alignment. When we're in alignment, our whole energy field starts to vibrate out that vibration, and that is our presence. And that's one of the most powerful, impactful ways that we are truly going to create change. So back to this universal signal. The universal signal is neutral, because if it wasn't, we wouldn't be in our sovereignty. So when we're in our alignment of something that we want to create, then it responds to our vibration. And so again, if we're saying something but feeling something completely different, it's not differentiating between or interpreting that, oh, they actually mean this. That signal is interpreting completely and responding from our vibration. So as we start to know and discover ourselves, we start to learn, where am I incongruent? Where am I thinking something, but I'm actually feeling something? Like I could be affirming, and affirming is very powerful. I could be affirming all day long that I want more peace, yet I'm constantly angry, or I'm contributing to anger, or I'm looking to create more conflict, or I'm affirming, but then the next minute I'm thinking about something that's inflaming me even more. So that's where we start to know ourselves lovingly. We can start to look at, okay, so where am I conflicted? Where is there incongruency between what I want to experience, create, and see for out the world, others? How can I start to get more into harmony and unity within my own self, within my own being? Where are these elements or aspects of separation consciousness in flow or playing out. What is actually limiting me from expressing myself? What's limiting me from being able to really know myself? And sometimes that can feel really uncomfortable at first when we start to go into it, because we might feel some uncomfortable emotions coming up. So that's where, again, back to some systems that are geared to help us go within. So that could be yoga. It could be Tai Chi. It could be, so it doesn't always have to be systems where we're studying them, like the numerology and the astrology, but it could also be just systems that really just incorporate the physical body too. And there's, this mind-body connection. It could literally being out in nature. There are so many ways. And the key is you know yourself, or you're learning to know yourself. So what resonates with you? Where do you feel calm? Or where do you feel connected? Or where do you feel inspired? Where do you feel lit up? And where do you feel more aware of yourself and what is in your lane and what isn't in your lane? And we want to learn how to do this again with this beautiful offering of, if I'm going to be free and I want freedom for all, I also need to learn how to authentically and cleanly give freedom to others. And cleanly means we are truly in our energy neutral about it. And that might take some time and that might take some emotional processing to get there. But that's what we're, invited to start to really cultivate. So when we look at it, the consciousness of we are the ones we've been waiting for, it's because we now are the ones that are incarnated at this time. And we are the ones that are learning how to step into our conscious creatorship, which is everything that we just talked about. So one of the most powerful things that we truly can do is even just sitting or even just asking once a day or a couple times a day. You could do this driving, you can do this walking, you could do this, anywhere, anytime. Just ask guidance, whatever that means for you. Help me to remember who I am and why I'm here at this current time. And help me to remember, why I've come here at this time and how I can express myself to my highest potential. And so the more we know ourselves, we start to understand and remember what our potential is. So remember, the ego mind cannot foresee or fathom what it hasn't experienced. So invitation for us is also keep asking, show me what's possible. Help me to remember what is possible. Help me to remember, most importantly, who I am and what is important in my own soul map that I want to dive into and remember, uncover, unearth, and start to really activate and express. It truly is our highest path of fulfillment and purpose, but it also is our path of true empowerment and true sovereignty. So that means that we are not in victim in any way. It doesn't mean we're still not going to have things that we need to navigate through. We have a lot to create. We have a lot to recreate. We have a lot. We're at that period of time. We're just at the beginning of this new consciousness. So sometimes that can feel really daunting when we start to look at what's happening out there. So if it does, then our invitation would be come back and ask, okay, so this is happening out here. What is that helping me to see and get clear on what we don't want and what would we want to replace that with? So if I'm seeing war and I'm seeing, leadership bringing conflict, war, savagery, disrespect for human life, how does that make me feel? So first, if that makes me feel absolutely rageful or angry, or I'm connected to the injustice of it, I want to move that energy, because that's a real response. That's like, oftentimes when we first start to become aware of something, our first response is actually anger. And so we want to honor that and we want to move that. And then we want to ask, okay, so we don't want to see that. What do we want to see? What qualities in our leaders do we want to see? What qualities within myself do I want to cultivate that's helping me to be very clear? And again, the microcosm macrocosm effect doesn't mean we have to be out there being a leader in the world over a country, over a culture, over a system or a structure. It means that I just have to start getting clear within my own self what I want. So if I really do want peace in the world, then how can I start to cultivate more peace for myself? So frequency, you've probably heard me say this, Dr. David Hawkins' work with vibration, one person holding a frequency of love counterbalances 750,000 of lower frequencies. So I feel like you might hear me say that a million times, because I feel like that is something that is so powerfully important for us to remember at this time, because we're so inundated with lower frequencies that's where we start to feel hopeless, or we feel defeated even. And so when we start to really come to understand that those higher frequencies counterbalance lower frequencies, we just really need to start to cultivate those higher frequencies and maintain them more consistently. And then the presence itself really starts to do the work. And we start to then feel more clear. We feel more clean to just really start to do things maybe potentially that we didn't do before. That could be just literally like singing through your day, or it could be just, feeling happy through your day, where before you just felt really heavy through your day, or felt like, it was drudgery. Even if you don't like what you're doing, you all of a sudden can start to come at your day and in the same situations, and you're coming at it from a different consciousness, you're coming at it from a different alignment, and therefore your whole experience starts to change. So sometimes nothing in your outer actually changes, but your whole experience does. You feel completely different. And sometimes you want your whole outer to change. And the way we do that is we start with, okay, right now, where I'm at right here, right now, how can I start to bring into my presence, come into alignment with what it is that I want to experience more in my outer? That's our power. So one more analogy I kind of like to use is, I think of our spiritual team. It's like they're in the, so if you're, you're familiar with airplanes. So imagine our spiritual team is kind of like in the tower, and we're the ones in the plane, or we're the ones actually on the ground. And we're flying the plane, or we're on the ground navigating through the ground. They can give us direction and guidance, but we are not asking them to come in our plane and fly our plane. We're the ones that are incarnated. So we're the ones that are really grounding these energies, and it's us that is coming into and practicing moving through the density and coming into the alignment. And so we can ask for guidance, we can ask for clarity, we can ask for support, we can ask for illumination. Help me to see what I can't see here. And they absolutely want to do that. And that is their role. They can't intervene. They won't intervene, though, because of free will. They won't intervene with our process. So when we are clear what our role is and what their role is, that's when then we can start to really work as a team. That's the co-creating. And that's really what we're stepping into. So one more invitation that we can just really ask, and again, there are many ways for self-discovery. So it's really just finding what feels good for you. It could be just, it could be what brings you joy. Where do you lose yourself? You're starting to get into union, calling forth your soul more, and really asking, show me what I need to see that I cannot see right now, that is hidden from me. Gently and lovingly bring into my conscious awareness what is unconscious. Give me eyes to see what I have not seen. Give me ears to hear what I have not yet heard. And give me an open heart, or help guide me. Again, they're not giving it to us, they're guiding us to having an open heart, so that I can know myself, so that I can know what really I can offer, and then have the courage to offer. So we really truly are who we've been waiting for. And in that, we have incredible support. It's just starting to rework kind of how we've been looking at things, and knowing that we're not waiting for something outside of us to make the change. If we can see that there's change that's needed, then we want to bring it back to ourselves and ask, how can I get into alignment and start to cultivate that? And if I'm sensitive to something, if I'm sensitive to injustice, if I'm sensitive to suffering, if I'm sensitive to people starving, or to animals, being mistreated, etc., then that's a part of our potential soul map that we have gifts and abilities potentially to offer in order to create that change. And again, it doesn't always mean it's something we have to do. It's not necessarily an action. It's first and foremost the alignment. And from that alignment, if there is an action, then it will be the right of action, an inspired action, and we will have clarity, and we will have the grit and the inner strength and the spiritual support and strength to then start to see that through and carry that out. So, invitation for you, for all of us, this is like, these are such exciting times. And yes, they're very tumultuous times right now. And they're also, unprecedented times. And so the invitation for us is to know ourselves and to know and remember we are divine. Namaste.